You're not enough? What do you have to say? No one wants to hear what you have to say. You don't have any value to provide. Who'd want to meet with you? You don't have any value. Why would they give you their time? What value do you bring? Oh, your voice is so annoying. If this sounds like the voices in your head, then we need to talk. You're probably suffering from imposter syndrome. Welcome to Bizcasters, the podcast that's made by podcasters for podcasters. Each episode brings you behind the scenes with podcast hosts to help you learn the best lessons to launch, grow, and sustain your podcast. My name is Sarah Scott, and I want to be your podcast bestie. I want to support you every step of the way in your podcast, and I want you to bring your business to life through your words. So, let's dive in. I know my opening was a little bit harsh, but you would never want someone to say those things to you. Then why are you saying those things to yourself? And yes, I know you're saying them to yourself if you're suffering from imposter syndrome, because those are exactly the same things I'm saying to myself. Now, if none of those statements ring true, you have never said those things to yourself, then congratulations, because you're doing better than most. But what you might find yourself feeling if you still have imposter syndrome, this is actually a list from HubSpot. If you ever feel like you just got lucky when actually you prepared and worked really hard for an opportunity, you find it very hard to accept praise. You apologize for yourself even when you didn't do anything wrong. You hold yourself to incredibly, sometimes impossibly high standards. You find the fear of failure absolutely paralyzing. You avoid expressing confidence because you think people are going to think you're overcompensating or are obnoxious or are self centered. You've convinced yourself you're not enough. People close to you say you're not as confident as you used to be. Or I would also interpret this as people around you keep saying how amazing and wonderful you are and wish that you could see it the same way. And you're now turning down opportunities for growth and visibility. So if any of those things have resonated with you, even if you don't use those specific statements I used in the beginning, but you have ever felt that way, you feel like you're hiding away or you don't deserve the opportunities that are coming to you, then you are suffering from imposter syndrome. And HubSpot put out this article that said that research shows that almost 82% of people suffer from imposter syndrome. So a lot of us are going through this. We all feel this in some way, shape, or form. And I can say that from talking to a lot of business owners who want to have podcasts, that a lot of us do suffer from this imposter syndrome. We really feel like we don't have anything additional to put out into the world. Everything has already been said, everything is already being covered. How am I going to do this differently? And we let those fears really paralyze us into not taking action. So, one of the things I've heard about imposter syndrome over the years is that we're never really going to get rid of it. And we can't get rid of it because every time we tend to go into a growth phase where we're going into something bigger, we're taking a leap, we're going someplace else, we will always feel a little bit of this imposter syndrome because we are getting into an area that we are unfamiliar with. And I loved that idea of acknowledging this fact that maybe my imposter syndrome is coming because I am looking to grow, and that growth is a little bit scary. It takes me out of the comfort zone, out of the things that I know I'm good at, out of the things I already know I can do, and puts me someplace new and different. And I don't know if I belong there. I don't know if I will succeed there. I don't know how I will be accepted or if I will be accepted there. So, acknowledging a little bit that imposter syndrome may actually just be a sign of growth for you, maybe one way that you can go ahead and tackle that. So, if we're never going to be able to beat it, then we need to find a way to cope with it. Because if we can't cope with it, then we might not ever grow. We might not ever put ourselves out of this comfort zone, put ourselves in situations where amazing things can happen for you and for your business and for your life. So, one of the things I thought I would just talk about are some of the ways that I like to try to beat imposter syndrome, some new ways I've seen that I think are really cool. And I want to also bring in some ideas that Brooke had talked about on our episode last week. So now that we know what it is and how it shows up, what I really wanted to do was say, okay, if we can't avoid it, then how can we work to overcome it so that it does not stop us from growing in our business? How does it not stop us from having the podcast that we want, from reaching out to make the connections we want to make, from having the collaborations that will grow our business? Brooke and I were having this conversation on LinkedIn the other day that imposter syndrome to me feels like one of those things that no matter how many times I'm going to be told, "You're amazing. You do great work. You do such amazing things. You're better than you think you are." That doesn't beat down my imposter syndrome. You can tell me that all day long, but that is not going to make me feel better about me because I'm still not feeling worthy of those compliments, right? Despite the fact that people will tell you this all the time, you may feel the same way. I wanted to look at other practical ways that we can take a step back and provide proof for ourselves that there are ways that we can get over this and ways that we can move beyond it so that we can, again, not let this hold us back. Because I think imposter syndrome is what holds so many people back from the greatness that they deserve in their lives. And it isn't something that we should allow to overtake us. So, let's talk through a couple of things that I really, really liked. And then if you have other ideas, please share them with me. I would love to be able to accumulate more ideas and share more things with people about how to step out of your comfort zone and be able to embrace that imposter syndrome so that you can grow. So, one of the things that I really did like on here is this idea of talking to somebody you trust or working with people that you trust. So, Brooke had talked about this on her episode when we were talking about how do we get over this fear. And she had suggested if you're looking to launch a podcast, do it privately. Just practice. Turn on the mic, turn on your camera, just talk, create an episode, make it short. Like I said in other episodes, make it short. Don't make it a 20-minute episode, make it a 5 minute, a 10 minute. Just share your thought and then make it a private YouTube channel or whatever you want to do and share it with a few people that you are very close to that can give you constructive feedback about it. Do it several times. Get yourself into the practice of actually doing it. And as you do this over time, you will build up the confidence that, okay, I do have something that I can add. I do have value here. I can actually do this. And then before you know it, you're going to be hitting publish and it's going to be out there and it's going to be live. But work with the people that you trust. Ask them for that feedback. Talk to them more deeply about your fears. We were talking with my business coaches, Andrew and Pete, and right now, I am suffering from some severe imposter syndrome. We are looking to develop a fan club for bizcasters. Woohoo! And when we developed that, one of the things we wanted as the hook for being inside the fan club is we wanted to do a monthly mastermind where I would sit down with a well known podcaster and they would talk about some of the successes inside of their business and be the mastermind for the people that come to attend so that the people around them can ask them questions about what made them successful and get that insight from them directly. Now, we wanted to start this out with a huge bang, so I was given a really big name to go ahead and start to work with, but I've had absolutely no connection to this person. I have absolutely no contact, communication. I've never met them. So I've reached out and connected with this person. And I have yet to make the ask for being on the mastermind because I am going to go through all of the things that tell you that I am not good enough, that my business isn't good enough, that my audience isn't big enough, that he is not going to want to waste his time with me. And so today I was talking with my coaches, and as I was talking through every single fear, every single voice in my head, we were able to then step back and say, okay, but what if? Okay, what if we tried to approach it this way? Or what if we tried to do that? So, working with people that you truly can trust to help walk you through, that you can be completely open and honest with about your internal monologue for your imposter syndrome is going to help you build that resilience and help you find ways around the things that you are feeling so that you can feel more confident to approach whatever it is that's giving you that imposter syndrome. So find those people that you really can go after. The next element I really liked was this idea of reframing your thoughts. And this kind of goes side by side with me, at least with working with somebody I truly trusted, because that's exactly what we did. We reframed those thoughts. We looked at something and said, oh my God, I can't do this all by myself, or oh my God, I'm not enough, or I'm going to make mistakes. And rather than looking at it as in what I have a lack of confidence at doing, I'm instead going to start looking at it with how could I do this? What do I need to do this? How could I make this successful? Who do I need to connect with? And when you start to reframe those thoughts a little bit, it's going to help dissolve that imposter syndrome because you're looking for solutions rather than just dwelling on the feelings. And I think that really can help us move forward. Another one I do really like, I do the celebrating the wins. Now, I know I said, "Oh, everybody can tell you things and it may not make an impact," but I like to keep a little wins folder where I capture things that are really great feedback to me, things I've really enjoyed, things that people have said that mean something to me, things that have come from clients, and as you build up that evidence more and more, it becomes really hard to argue with. As you see all of these pieces of information in your folder, in your email, and your voicemails, and wherever it's gonna sit, it becomes really hard to ignore. So celebrate your wins. Find ways to celebrate your wins. Move through there. I think one of the other things we absolutely need to do is get out of our own heads. Find a way to get out of there because I really think that imposter syndrome comes from us trying to talk to ourselves too much, really doing this way too much, getting into our own heads, going down the rabbit hole, and it's all just in our own heads. How do we get out of your head? Join a community, get together, talk with other people, find like minded individuals who may be going through the same thing you are or have gone through the same thing you are. And again, talk with them. Be honest about how you're feeling. Be honest with what's stopping you from taking those steps. And once you bring that up and you start really looking at that, I think that you're going to see how much more you have to offer to the world. I also believe that if you understand what kind of imposter syndrome that you are struggling with, you can start to develop strategies that will help you overcome that. So, yes, imposter syndrome is not just a thing, it is actually lots of things. And I'm going to link a HubSpot article here so that you can check out all the different ways that you could be suffering from imposter syndrome. For example, I believe I partially am a perfectionist. I want things to be perfect. I don't want to launch things that are messy, things that have not gone well, things that I haven't necessarily fully prepared. I don't wanna be asking somebody for something when I don't have that value behind it or believe I have that value behind it. I wanna test something first. I wanna do this thing first. I suffer from a bit of that perfectionism, but knowing that, I need to go ahead and find other ways to be able to address perfectionism even before it starts to rear its ugly head. So how do I do that? How can I get myself out of that? If you are a podcaster or going to be a podcaster, I find that folks that do solo episodes suffer from perfectionism a lot. And it actually really does hinder them from moving forward because they're thinking, oh, I have to produce this perfect episode. I'm going to tell you right now, this episode is not perfect, not even in its final version, but it's not perfect. But guess what? That's what post production is for. And if you do not want to do your own post production, then put the strategies in place. Hire somebody, work with me, work with my team, work with somebody so that they will go ahead and do all of the editing. They will do all of the repurposing. They will take that outsider's perspective on your content to help you see what's good, what's bad, what can be improved. And you aren't drowning in perfectionism and trying to tell yourself, oh my God, this is crap. I'm never going to use it. And just throwing it all out before it ever gets out into the world. So, finding those strategies that will align with how your imposter syndrome shows up is going to be critical in terms of trying to actually get there. One of the other ways that we could avoid this imposter syndrome is to normalize failure. So, if we're going to normalize failure, what does that really look like? I don't think it's necessarily normalizing failure. Sometimes I think it's about readjusting our expectations as well because really we never fail, right? We don't fail, we learn lessons. We see what works, what doesn't work. And I think we have to, again, going back, reframe our perspective to say, okay, what is it we really expect out of this? For example, when I launched the podcast, I didn't have these huge expectations for numbers. I said to myself, this is going to be an experiment of sorts for me to see if I can do it, what I can do, what it's going to look like. And so I don't have huge expectations on my download numbers. So I have clients who have hundreds and hundreds of downloads every episode. And if I'm sitting here and doing comparisonitis with them, like I am going to feel like a failure. I am going to have imposter syndrome to be like, who am I to launch a podcast and I only get 15 downloads per episode? It doesn't matter. That's okay, right? It's okay. So instead of fearing that piece and calling that a failure, I instead reframed the goals of the podcast to say, this is what I want to have happen. This is what I'm hoping to do. And making sure that I'm doing that bit by bit and saying, okay, downloads are going to be great in the long run. But for right now, I'm hoping to create content. I'm hoping to create connection. I am wanting to create authority. Those are the things that I really want to do by having this show. And the downloads will follow as we keep growing, as we keep moving through things. So, really taking a look at reframing what you think is going to be a success or a failure, I think could also help you get over your imposter syndrome. If you are struggling and trying to get to the point where you want to launch a podcast, but you have all of this stuff going on inside of your head, you don't know what you're working on. Again, get out of your head, get out of your own head, talk to somebody. If you have a show idea and you want to run it by someone, hook up. Give me a call. I'm happy to walk you through, have a quick call with you, talk about your show, talk about your ideas, give you some insights into what I see works, what I might see inside of your podcast. You have all of the potential in the world to bring all of this value to light. And if I have any advice that I would give is that you are special just by being you. You lived a life that nobody else has lived. You've had experiences that nobody else has had. You have questions that people are afraid to ask. So ask them. If you want to have a podcast, if you want to have your own show, use all of that to your advantage. Yes, for me, there are other podcasts out there that talk about podcasting, but it's not me. They're not me. They haven't had all of the experiences that I have. They don't have the friends that I have. They don't have the business that I have. They don't have the experiences that I've had. And all of that plays into how I approach everything that I'm doing. And all of their experiences are what's going to be how they approach what they do. And some people will like them, and some people might like me. And that is enough. It is everything. It's more than enough. It's everything. You are enough. You are valuable. You have value. And I can't wait to see what you bring into the world. Until next week, we'll talk later, Bizcasters. Bye.